Welcome back. I've got Andrew Crapuchettes on the line. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me, Michael, and nice to talk to you.
Happy New Year and great to talk to you. Really looking forward to this conversation because you're doing some amazing work at RedBalloon, and obviously you've done some great work throughout your career. So why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. No, I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, did the old .com thing. Decided I wanted a change of pace, a change of scenery, and moved up to Idaho 25 years ago. Was blessed to start a bunch of different businesses. I've started businesses as small as a couple of employees and ran a $50 million business and I think I've had six successful exits over the years, ranging from, $100,000 to half a billion. So been kind of in the business world for a long time and really focused on labor market data and job creation primarily. So that's kind of my background. Then I've got five kids and live in beautiful Idaho on 60 acres, 10 minutes from the office, which is hard to beat.
Yeah, Idaho's a beautiful part of our country. It's been a long time since I've been there. I went there when a high school friend of mine was stationed at Mountain Home Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And I remember he gave us a little tour of the space. And then there was this one door that was blacked out window. And he goes, I can't, and he was a mechanic. He said, I can't show you what's in that room. And I believe, and he would never confirm long after he left, which is good for military personnel, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure it was one of the stealth things that we didn't know existed yet. So,
Yeah.
he got to play with all the cool toys. But
That's amazing. That's really cool.
yeah, Idaho is just a wonderful part of our country for sure. And the job market, and that's one of those top of mind subjects that
Yeah.
gets talked about monthly at least because they'll say, okay, the jobs report will get reported, or you'll hear stories like we talked about in the pre-show where Wall Street Journal has had a couple articles in the past 2 weeks on the job market. One of them was about how for people that are unemployed, it's harder for them to find work. And I think back to not that long ago, during the pandemic and a couple of years after it first happened, where organizations were having a really challenging time finding people to now people are having a really challenging time finding things. And you've been in this space for quite a while, and what are some insights that you want to share for not only for candidates but for businesses as well? Because I think it's important for organizations to recognize that there's a better way to go about this and finding talent and for talent to find organizations. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, it's the labor market's I don't know. I've always found it fascinating. And at the end of the day, it's people, right? And I think a lot of people forget that when you read those reports by economists, like we created 264,000 jobs. Well, that means that 264,000 individuals now have a career that they're, pursuing, they're trying to do well at. Right. And it's very easy when you have very large numbers, particularly you look at the US labor market and economy, to forget those are people involved, right? But the reality is that a job is a very defining feature of your life. It's not the only defining feature, but it's one of the major defining features. When you meet someone new, you ask them, what do you do? And you're asking them what their job is, but that question betrays that a job is more than just a 9 to 5 hobby. It's a defining feature. It's how you bless customers. It's how you build a community. It's how you build an economy. It's how you take care of your family. And so I guess I always like to well, let's remember there's humans involved. It's not just big job numbers. And the labor market has changed quite a bit. If you look over the last 10 years, the JOLTS report, which is the jobs and labor turnover report, basically how many open jobs are in the economy. We used to have 3 to maybe 4 million open jobs, and these are job postings out in the economy that are not being filled right now or are being filled, but then new ones are backfilling them. So 3 to 4 million open jobs. We went through the COVID massive disruption to the labor market and then came out of that. And we actually started peaking out at over 10 million open jobs in the labor market. So you had this weird kind of dynamic that happened in the labor market in the economy where people were receiving, whether it was COVID checks or they were afraid to go back to work or whatever reason, they didn't want to jump back into the labor market after being displaced. I think a lot of them lost faith in the labor market. They lost faith in the businesses. They felt like they didn't have any loyalty with the businesses that were hiring them or used to employ them and laid them off. So all of a sudden, the businesses were desperate to fill jobs. And I remember talking to a lot of businesses during that time period, and they really had to shift their mindset from, look, the labor market is not a vending machine. You can't just put in a quarter and get out a great employee. You need to be building an employment brand. You need to be building a talent network. You need to have a strategy around building the talent that you need for your business to be successful. And so businesses, I think, are starting to come to grips with that. But then, even though the unemployment rate continues to be very low in the, barely over 4%, people are having trouble finding jobs a lot more than they did even a year ago, which is really interesting to me because this economy has been dealing with the headwinds of inflation, of taxes and regulation, and honestly, the economy has been dealing with a lot of unknowns of what's going to happen with the election, what's going to happen with different state policies, natural disasters, et cetera. So all these things are coming in to play for these businesses, and they're starting to come to grips with this. But then the economy is kind of slowing down right now, and people are struggling to find a job. It's taking them longer. The average time to find a job in America is pushing 4 months right now. And you think about like, well, okay, what's 4 months? Well, if you're not getting a paycheck for 4 months, um, you really feel that and your family really feels that. And it's not just the money side, although that's a big part of it. It's the stress and anxiety of the job search process. And speaking of the job search process, I would say in a lot of ways it's really broken right now because, put yourself in the shoes of a job seeker. You are applying for a job and you're saying, "Hey, I think that my skill set would be a good fit for your business." And then most businesses aren't even responding to you. They're just ghosting you. They're not even giving you the compliment of a response. And those who do respond to you are saying, no, you're not a good fit because of a variety of factors. And you're not even given the opportunity to say, hey, wait, let me explain why I think I was a good fit for that job. On the business side, they're posting a job. If you're posting a job on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, one of the really big job boards, you might get thousands of responses from that job posting. Well, if you're a single recruiter at a small business, let's say under 500 employees, and you get 1,000 responses to a job posting, you can't give meaningful time of day to all 1,000 people who are applying. So you're trying to weed people out and not even respond to them because you don't have time for any interaction. So in my mind, the job market is very broken. And someone was telling me, they're like, well, it's not that big a deal. It's like a sales job, right? You're just selling yourself to these businesses. But I would argue that it's very different in that when you're selling a piece of software or a widget or whatever, you're selling something else and you're saying, hey, I think this is a good fit for you. And when you're rejected, they're rejecting the thing you're selling. But when you're trying to apply to a job, the thing they're rejecting is you, right? And so it's this very personal, painful process to actually look for a job. And so I know a lot of people who don't even want to jump in and then they find out that they need to grind for 4 months and it's not as easy as they thought it would be. So anyway, now I'm talking about, I painted this horrible picture of what the job market is today, but unfortunately that's a reality. And that's what people are dealing with. Businesses are overwhelmed with applicants who aren't a good fit, and applicants are ghosted or not given the time of day or given the opportunity to fight and say, no, I really could do this job. Give me a chance. And so all those factors are playing into a very difficult labor market right now.
Yeah, and I've seen it, and we know, split time between San Diego and Toronto, completely different things, and the dynamic of the 51st state, I find quite entertaining, and that's a completely different subject for another day. Because
Yes, right.
I'm a dual citizen, and I can vote and screw up two countries, and I take that very, very seriously. But the job markets are very similar, where in that it's very difficult for people to find opportunities. It's taking them longer.
Yeah,
There's the fake job posts and all of that, which is
right,
annoying. It's like, don't, if it doesn't exist, don't play. Come on. It's like you're
right.
wasting time by doing that. But, we're seeing in both markets, unfortunately, because if you don't get paid for several months, well, you have no revenue coming in, then that's problematic. And we've seen that with the amazing spike in demand for food bank services and homelessness and all of these things where for years, homeless, and I've worked in the sectors that, dealt with it, usually on average, 3 to 4% of the population will be homeless at any given time because of mental issues. Just they don't want to be around people. There's all kinds of different things. Well, now, those numbers in certain markets have been increasing, and it's not because these people are having mental health issues. It's like they can't find a job.
That's right.
Or and it's it's a situation where they go to apply, and even at a place that used to be a turnstile type of place, we'll pick on the fast food industry. It's like that's just a constant turnstile of teenagers, and that's how the system has been. You could argue that's broken as well, but
Right.
to the point where someone says, "Okay, I want to apply for that," and they'll look at you and they'll go, "Okay, you're in your mid 30s or early 40s," and they're like, "You're a flight risk. You're only taking this until you go. I don't want to bother with training you." So here's somebody that's willing, able to work, wants to work, and they're not even getting a sniff. And it gets to the point where people are like, you know what? Screw it. I'd rather sleep in a tent and deal with the food bank than have to navigate all that stuff. And what that does to society is it robs society of great people that could do great things for these companies, but they don't want to get into that nonsense of what the job search and job market has been. And I think that's,
Right.
one of the things that jumps out for me, and this is not a commercial by any stretch, of, the work that you're doing at Red Balloon. I get the emails, I see what the types of posts are and the jobs and all of that. And they're real posts. There's
Right.
real people behind it. They might be using ATS, but in the conversations that I've had, with other people that I've like, hey, go check them out. It's like, yeah, I got a call from a real person, and they looked at it, and it was like,
Right.
wow,
Yes.
it's like the olden days when it's like, oh, people working with people. What a weird concept. But because it's frustrating. I've looked for work before, and I've been
Yeah.
on all sides of the fence. Either hiring people or being somebody looking for work as well, and it's it's a lot like buying a car. Now, some people love buying cars. I despise it.
Yeah.
Um,
Most
I,
people don't.
yeah, it's like no, it's like the haggling and negotiation. Some people are all in on that, and like I'm gonna get my best deal. Where I'm like, just set a price. I'll pick the vehicle that I can afford. I'll buy it. Make the
Right.
transaction easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's like here's the job. Do you have those skill sets? Yes. Okay. Let's talk about personality.
Yeah.
What's
And culture
important
fit.
to you. And, oh,
Yeah. Those
culture
things.
is a huge thing. And
Yeah. Yeah. For
and
sure.
I've shared this story before. I ran multi-site medical care clinics for several years, and I was looking for a receptionist, and I got 900 resumes, and I'm like, okay, how do I go about this? Well, I took the time to look at them, and it took time, but
A
I'm like,
lot.
I am going to look at these. And I got one, and it jumped out all over the others, and the doctors thought I was absolutely bonkers for doing this. But, the receptionist that we hired had no medical experience. I turned down other people that had medical experience. She didn't have medical experience. So the doctors are like, are you out of your mind? Why are you hiring somebody that doesn't know the industry? It's like, well, one day somebody hired me as the executive, and I wasn't in healthcare. So
Right.
work with me on this. The reason why I hired her, one was personality. She was outgoing, could handle everything. Secondly, she had worked in for a cell company's customer service retail. So she's dealing with people that are complaining that their iPhone costs too much or that plan isn't working or my this or that. So anything that she's dealing with, unless she's trying to sell somebody on it, she's dealing with unhappy customers. I'm like, you're going to be dealing with unhappy, sick patients. They're going to be mean. They're going to say some
Right.
things that they shouldn't say. Are you okay with that? Yes, I've had this experience with that. So I hired her. So again, doctors were originally mad at her, and she was, and I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. She was commuting a long way to get to our clinic.
Mm.
She had like almost an hour each way commute, which is a long, for a receptionist role, that's a lot. So she'd been with us for a couple of years. The doctors long forgot about her skills, thought she was an all-star. I was, looking, in the trades and all that kind of stuff, and I saw one of our um, partner clinics, not necessarily a partner, but same kind of group, had an opening for a receptionist role and slash office management type of assistant thing. And that location was 20 minutes from where she lived. So I called the director at that clinic and I said, I got a person. I don't want to lose her, but she lives 20 minutes from you guys. and she's
Right.
absolutely amazing. Would you be willing to interview her? Yes.
Yeah.
So she went on the interview. She got offered the job. She was back and forth on. She did not want to leave us, but I said, okay, you're gaining at least 40 minutes a day. So
Yep.
multiply that. What would you do with that extra time? Um, Sleep in a little bit, get home earlier, do this, that. So long story short, she quit. Doctors are mad at me again how could you get rid of her? So it's gone from why did you hire her to why did you
Yeah.
let her leave?
You gotta trust me, all right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so I've seen everything. And I said, because I wanted what's best for her as an
Right.
individual.
Right.
Long story short, a couple years later, she was promoted to office manager, and now she's assisting running that clinic. So she
Yep.
went from working for a cell phone company as a customer service person to
Yep.
running a medical clinic office. Why?
Yep.
Because I believed that she could do the job.
Well, and she
Right.
had the right character, she had the right work
Oh, yeah.
ethic, right? All those things, and you were able to see that. Whereas an ATS, I hate to pick on them because RedBalloon has an ATS, and I'll explain that in a minute. But there's yeah, so much can be missed in that process. And I think what you just explained, which I think is brilliant and wonderful, is hiring is a distinctly human thing. And I think anytime you just try and have the algorithms or AI or any of these things take over DQing people who the algorithm thinks are not a good fit, or communicating in a way that's clearly a machine communicating. I just think it's not kind and it's not human. It is a distinctly human thing to hire other people. So, and I guess to your point, I painted a really bleak picture, and I love your story there. But it took a long time, right? If you've got 900 resumes you're going through, then you've got to go and pitch the doctors that no, trust me, this is going to be the right person for our organization. That's an enormous amount of time commitment. And if you're hiring 20 people, and you want to make sure that they actually work, well, multiply that by 20, and all of a sudden you are a full-time person just trying to hire people, and you're not getting any other work done. So I sympathize with the employers who are like, I need algorithms, I need AI, I need an applicant tracking system to do something, because there is just this hard, reality of amount of hours. So this is what RedBalloon's doing to solve it, because I don't like to paint bleak pictures and say that everything's terrible and then not say what we're doing to solve it, because we think there are ways to solve this. So there's a couple things we're doing right now. So if you're a job seeker, instead of applying to jobs, and you can apply to jobs on RedBalloon if you think you're a good fit, and I will tell you our employers are different because we coach them up and say, look, your employment brand is really important. And that person who you might not think is a good fit right now might either know someone who is a good fit, or they might be a good fit for you at some point in the future. And if you ghost them, if you treat them as someone not worthy of a response, that's going to tell them a lot about you as an employer and whether they should ever apply for you or even recommend you as an employer. So you need to continue to be thinking about your employment brand and be responding to people, right? So job seekers can apply, or you can just join a talent network or a resume database on RedBalloon. And basically what you're saying is like, look, maybe you have a job today, maybe you don't have a job today, but I would like to be considered for an opportunity that you think as an employer is a good fit for me. And then either employers or our RedBalloon recruiting team will go through that resume database when we have open jobs, and we'll reach out to people and say, look, we think that you're worth an interview for this job. We can't guarantee that you're going to be a good fit, but we think it's worth a conversation. Well, as a job seeker, think how much better of an experience that is. Instead of applying to a job and getting ghosted or rejected, someone's reaching out and saying, look, I don't know if this is a good fit, but I think it's worthy of an interview to have a conversation about this job. Well, that's a way better way to do it. The other thing that we do on the employer side is we can take over that recruiting process. And look, there are recruiters out there, some good recruiters. They're very, very expensive. If you use a traditional outsourced recruiter, you're going to pay 30 to 40% of the first year salary for the person that they're helping you hire. So get ready to write a $30,000 to $40,000 check for them to fill a position for you. Well, RedBalloon thought, man, there's got to be a different way. If we can do this at scale, we can include humans and use computer programs and software to just make the humans more efficient, but not try and take over what is a distinctly human thing of looking someone in the eyes, getting on a video call, actually understanding, you know what, you're a person of character, and while you might not have all the skills today, you're going to be an awesome fit for this company. So we will actually take over that recruitment process, and we will do it for under $10,000. And we've filled CFOs and CEOs, and we've filled executive assistants. When you've got a small business and you know you need the right person, but you don't have the time and energy to do it yourself, we're going to save you tens of thousands of dollars and actually have a human being talk to people who might be a good fit for your company. So that's kind of, and we're trying to build that at scale because we believe that job seekers have the right and the dignity to have a conversation with a human being. And we believe in businesses, if you're a small business, you simply don't have, we estimate it should take 30 hours to run a good hiring process. 30 hours, right? Well, imagine that if you have 10 people you need to hire. Well, most business owners don't have 300 hours that they can devote to hiring. They need to be running their business. And so that's what RedBalloon does. We take over the hiring process. We do it for way less than a traditional recruiter. And we try and give job seekers the dignity of a human conversation because we think they deserve it. And if we can do that at scale and really redeem the world of work and make work fun again, that's really what we're striving for.
Yeah, I'm a gigantic fan of it, and as I said, I've had people look at it. I get the emails because I always want to see what's going out there, and I
Yeah.
see the quality of organizations that are in there, and you can tell that and thank you for sharing. I did not know the fact the organization is coaching these organizations because post after post after post, it's like this feels personable. It doesn't
Right.
feel like here's what you need to do. And I'll give you a funny story. I saw a not because I've done on the side I do some nonprofit help and whatnot, and I saw a job post for a part-time nonprofit director type of role.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the job post and I'm like I started visually trying to count the bullet points of the duties and responsibilities. And I'm like scrolling, I'm like, and my original career was accounting, so I can count, but I'm like, there's too many bullet points. So literally, I copied the post, I threw it into ChatGPT, and I said, "Hey, ChatGPT, how many bullet points are in this job post?" 57 was the last one. 57. And
Right.
then, of course, other duties is assigned, which is the that's the
Right.
catch-all.
The
Those
total
other
catch-all. And there's like probably two human beings on the entire planet that check all 57 of those boxes, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was the volunteer board of directors sitting around the board table coming up with a wish list instead
We
of,
should do
okay,
this. We should do that.
what, hire some, what do you want, who are you as an organization and what do you want to do?
Right.
What's your mission? Who do you want to accomplish? What type of person do you want in this role? Not skills. Skills can be taught.
Right.
And we've got countless stories about that. But what do you want that person to be like? What do they need to have from a personality standpoint to be able to succeed in this job and deal with you bozo board members? Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
That's right.
Editor,
We have not mentioned names. We will protect the guilty.
editor, don't remove that. Okay.
That's right.
But again, your organization is helping organizations return to the people business and the human business, and long overdue. And I celebrate, the work that you're doing and important work. And like you said, it's not easy out there, but organizations like you and your team will make it easier. So
That's
love
right.
this conversation, Andrew. Where can people find out more about you and Red Balloon and everything else you're doing?
Yeah, go to redballoon.work, not .com. That's where you'll find a party supply store. And we actually think work is a good thing. And so that's why we thought redballoon.work would be a good thing. And look, if you're an employer and you want to hire someone who's going to be a great culture fit, and you don't have the 30 plus hours that you need to devote to that whole process, but you don't want to spend $50,000, please reach out to redballoon.work. We believe that there's a better way to hire, and we've done this for many, many hundreds of employers. Also, if you're a job seeker and you find the job hunting prospect just discouraging, go ahead and fill out a profile on redballoon.work. You're now part of a database um, of job seekers who care about meritocracy and hard work and showing up and providing value. And you never know, you might just get a tap on the shoulder and say, we have an opportunity that might be a good fit for you. And you don't have to go through all the pain and anguish of rejection while still being involved. There's obviously jobs you can apply to, would encourage you to do that. And then the last thing I'd say is if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I try and have a daily post about how do you build culture? How do you hire well? How do you interview well in a job? And so have a hopefully good content out there, and that's where I put most of it. So follow me on LinkedIn, Andrew Crapuchettes. There are not a lot of people with that last name out there, so you're pretty safe to know that it's going to be this bald guy.
And I'll definitely have all of that information in the show notes. So, Andrew, thank you for being you. Thank you for this awesome work, and really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me. Everyone, have a great day.